let's talk a little bit about England Is Mine. When did you know you had that story in your head?
So I think actually, and I won't give any spoilers away, but the first scene that came to me was the last scene of the book. I knew once I had that scene that I sort of had a story, and the question really was how to write almost backwards, how to get to that stage. So then it became sort of more structural questions of, I wanted to sort of last a certain amount of time. If if they're there at that point, where do they have to be there? And I knew if I wanted to explore sort of radicalization to the far right, it was important it sort of blurred any black and white narratives we might have, any cliches. So I wanted the starting point to be somebody who, was an indie rock lover, wore eyeliner, was a vegan, and it to be him moving over the course of 2 years, radicalizing to the far right, and to show the complexity of the appeal of the far right.
Okay, so you start at the end of the book, and I find that really interesting. And I've been lucky enough to meet numerous authors who've all had a different answer to that question, because everyone starts with the seed, and that could be the first page, the last page, some page somewhere in the middle, a page that never exists, in the final draft. But when you're digging backwards through that story and knowing you need to explain, okay, so we get here because of this, and that happened because of that, and that all happens because of this person and that person. How do you know when to stop, or how did you know when to stop going backwards? Because ultimately you could have kept going until they were back to their birth.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. And actually, there was, a section before this that in the end never made it into the final cut. And that was.
Does that mean there's a prequel coming?
Not yet. If I run out of other ideas,
okay,
then I'll go there. But yeah, there was a section before this, and so working with my agent, we realized, that didn't need to be there, and this was the better place to start. I think it probably can be useful when you're working on the novel to have a sort of vague idea of sort of the whole arc of somebody's life, sort of from the start to the end, and even if you're only actually capturing, a few months, a few years, to know where they go, where they came from, probably is useful to really concentrate then a lot into those few months, a few years that you do show.
I often use this example when people ask me about like things I really enjoy in the worlds that people build, whether it's in book form, if it's in movies. And movies is a really good way of explaining this. And people go, "There's just too many movies in the Marvel universe." I'm like, yeah, there is, but someone had to create all the backstories, all the side stories, all the stories that happen beyond this point in the future. And you're the only person that knows every little detail about the characters in this book that we may never experience. So I still can't wrap my head around this. How much trust do you have to put in us as readers of the book that we can fill in the blanks? The questions we ask about a character or about a particular event in that character's life, how hard is it to trust us to know how to fill that blank in?
Yeah, I think in a way you're sort of always writing with a sort of ideal reader in mind, but at the same time, I think it was also important for me in sort of writing a book like this that readers would come away with very different interpretations, and in a way it might actually be quite hard to pinpoint my own political views and my own perspective. I wanted all the characters their own viewpoints to be put forward as strongly as possible. I never wanted to write a didactic, sort of moralistic tale. And you have books like, say, 1984, it's appropriated by the left and the right. And so many great books are. So from that perspective, it's almost nice to not need to trust the reader, If they can take something from it, then I'm in no position to say that's right or wrong. Once the words have been written, then it's open for anybody.
But surely some readers get it really wrong. Like surely someone's come up and gone, "Oh, but this chapter here, you say that is that?" And you think to yourself, "You've got the wrong end of the stick there, mate."
I've definitely heard some curious things, but I'm
you don't have to divulge at this stage. It's fine.
No, I'm open to it. I think there's something really beautiful about the idea that once it's sort of out there, people can have wildly different interpretations of it, and people will focus on really different sort of aspects of the book too. Some people who've enjoyed it have never used a smartphone, despite so much of the book sort of engaging with the
Yeah.
online world. Some people, very, or at least haven't gone to a gig in 30, 40 years and sort of love the book. So it's been interesting to hear the different things that people focus on, and what matters to them, versus sort of what matters to me. But I think it's lovely to have a difference there.
Do you play video games?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, good. And I asked that if you haven't read, there are parts of it where David's playing online. There's lots of online chats going on. And for me, because I have a video games console and I like playing in my own time, but I don't play online, just play by myself type thing. There were those moments I could really feel how small that world was you were creating, and just these select group of people were just in their own tiny insular world, and everything that happened outside of it was wrong, and they were kind of stoking each other up a lot of the time. But I also appreciate that lots of people who don't play video games or haven't played a video games console since the Sega Mega Drive, there's a 90s throwback for you, won't necessarily get that kind of reference. And so, it's weird because I've always struggled to find an understanding as a reader, so I've never written a book, as to why or how you trust the audience to pick up on it. Because I know that. Go on.
No. Yeah. No, I think that's totally true. And there was sort of you do think about wanting to keep then certain elements sort of mercifully short, sort of, so to speak.
Yes. Yeah.
But with the video gaming, I think it is incredibly interesting, the sort of the online aspect of it. I know sort of there's so many sort of men out there who might feel quite socially isolated in ways and feel quite uncomfortable sort of speaking emotionally to people around them, especially if they don't feel like they have many sort of close friends. But the amount of sort of confidence that can be given to them just by sort of putting up the headset always sort of surprises me. It's almost sort of a license. You might be playing Call of Duty and racking up these like frenzied, frantic kill streaks. Sort of in between that, these sort of emotional conversations can take place between people, and there is a sort of real like space for that, and it can be really important. I remember during lockdown, very very regularly, ambling back up to bed at 4 or 5 a.m. with it's dawn,
One more level.
the birds were already out, and I've been playing Call of Duty with two people that are here, and amazing, like.
Do we need to have an intervention at any point? Do we need to sit you all down and just have a chat? But on a serious note, I think it's very true, and it's such a modern way of people bonding and having that open communication channel. We are getting so much better as a society about talking to each other about the things we're worried about, the things we're angry about, and so on and so forth. But there's whether there's a wrong arena to have those conversations, I'll leave that open-ended. But because I know that so many people have stories in their heads, everyone has one story. That's a fact, by the way. Everyone in this room has a story in their head. It's your life, and it is immensely more interesting than you think it is. I know people want to or wish they could write a book. So I want to just extract a few bits of your experience in writing this to maybe help someone else. How long a time span was it between going, I've got an idea, and having, let's say, the first draft done?
I think about 4 years. I think I got the idea properly in about 2016, 17, no, probably 2017. And I think sort of the first draft was done around 2021, then maybe another draft by 2022.
Yeah. Why did it take you so long? And that's not a criticism. There's no wrong amount of time to do these sorts of things. I really believe that. It takes as long as it takes, whatever it is you're making. Why do you think it took you that long? Especially when you had the idea, ultimately the end of the book was there in your head. You knew how it was going to conclude.
I think with this novel particularly, there's so much sort of research that had to be done that almost a year and a half of that was purely research. There's a tremendous amount of time spent in the sewers of the internet, and I really know my way through them now.
We give you a call if we get lost.
Yeah. Like really routinized, like 12 to 12:30. Let's spend some time on 4chan. Dip into some Telegram for a bit, some like Discord over there. So it was important to me again in terms of not condescending to my characters or not speaking over them. I wanted to make sure I could capture their voice and their concerns earnestly and put forward sort of everyone's viewpoint as strongly as possible, which meant sort of mountains of research. And then you have so much research, it's trying to decide what goes in and what doesn't go in.
And every author says that, by the way. That is a shared thing across writing. Every author does too much research and then goes, right, now I've got too much.
Exactly, yeah.
This book is 900 pages long. What have I created?
And you spend so long researching it, you feel like you want to put it in, right?
Yeah.
So it's then a real chiseling sort of process. And in a weird way, that's maybe where the biggest chunk of the time, I think, comes. Knowing, again, stepping back out and trying to imagine for somebody who hasn't done this research, like what's actually interesting and what's actually worth putting in. You do need to step out and take some space away from it to.
And is that where it's a really good stage to ask someone else to look at what you're doing? Because I think a lot of people get quite protective. You start writing a project, or if it's a song, you're like, it's my song, not letting anyone see it. You go, have a listen, and they go, oh, that's pretty good.
Exactly.
Like, oh, okay, it's fine. Was there a sort of moment that you knew you had to ask?
Yeah, I was sort of working on a process of sort of every 5,000 words I was showing.
Just every 5,000 words.
Yeah, exactly. And that worked really well for sort of progressing it and again finding where you might be going wrong or what aspects of the novel are working, what chime with other people.
Yeah.
And as you say, it's absolutely the same as I'm sure when you're working on a song and you're working sort of from the demo stage to recording or producing, like the things you like about it again might not, however much you want them to, might not chime with other people.
You're slightly delusional, don't you? Because you're like, it's mine. Of course, it's great. I'm brilliant.